Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to all the people joining us from all around the world. I Samira Siddiqui, welcome you from here in Karachi, Pakistan, to all over the globe, people joining from all over the globe in a webinar presented by IET Karachi Network. I just want to wait for a few minutes so that people could join in and just we could start then. I hope you all are doing good. Kindly let me know in the comments and in the comment section, like if you could hear me and you could see me clearly, you could see the screen. Let people move forward. Thank you so much, Wala. Thank you, Wasim. Thank you so much, Andra. Sunil, Jan. We will be starting in a minute. Like I will be introducing the speaker for our today's webinar. I hope you all will have a good experience of this webinar. It's IET Karachi Network's first global webinar. I would be raising a poll and I would be knowing that how many people from around the world we are having today. And then we would start. I would start with my introduction. I'm Samira Siddiqui. I am Honorary Secretary and Online Community Administrator of IET Karachi Network. And I just completed my graduation bachelor's in the last year, and I would be doing my MBA in the coming months. With starting my MBA, and IET, I've been affiliated with IET for the last 3 years. It's been a great experience. And for today's webinar, the topic of today's webinar, as you all can see on your screen, it's transformer condition monitoring using oil analysis. It is presented by Mr. Naveed Rabbani, who is project management professional and chartered engineer. IET Karachi Network is presenting this webinar. I would be raising a poll, if you could give me a minute, so that you all just need to answer this poll so that we could continue with our thing. Kindly leave me the answers over here so that we could move forward with the webinar. Thank you so much. I'm receiving the answers. Okay, I will be ending polling now. Engineering students 12%, industry professional 30%, and industry professional greater than 2 years of experience. That's nice, 58% of them. So, Mr. Naveed Rabbani, can you please move the slide? I want to just enter the guidelines. Mics and cameras are already muted and you won't be able to switch it on as this is a Zoom platform. Actually, I just want to tell you all that the IET webinar start from UK and people from all around the world will be joining, and I'm really excited for today. I hope you all will be having a great experience. You can always submit the questions in the question answers tab, and it would be interactive. You all would be able to answer the questions that the poll I raised. I would be raising another poll in the next slide. Can you please increase the slide? Next slide, please. I would like to introduce a respectable speaker, Mr. Naveed Rabbani, who is chartered engineer and project management professional from PMI. He is manager electrical instrumentation at Hub Power Service Limited. He has around 13 years of wide experience in power sector, and he has led various projects planning, maintenance, electrical instrument and control functions by being part of different industries. He has great wide experience. I could just not mention all of his experience here. He has done his master's MBA from IBA, and he has done his master's in energy management and bachelor's in electrical engineering. I hope he would be having a good session with you all. Next slide, please. The target audience, electrical and electronics and engineering students. I hope the people who are having interest in transformers, like we would also be our target audience, no matter what field they belong to, and the young professionals. I hope you all will be having a good session with us. I would be rating my last poll, and I would be handing over to the speaker. Poll time. Can you wait a minute? If you could please vote for this question. I want to know that how many people are joined from different places. Okay. It's nice. Wait a minute. I want everyone to vote over here. If you everyone could please vote. I would be sharing the results with you all. Like, we have most of the people from Pakistan, and we are here from Pakistan. India, I really welcome you all from wholeheartedly with warm hearts. Europe, UK, and the rest of the world. I welcome you all. Now, I will be handing over this mic and everything to Mr. Naveed, so you could have your webinar for you, the purpose you are all here. Okay.
Thank you very much, Samira, for a nice intro, and I welcome all on this webinar. Good afternoon from Karachi, Pakistan, and I must discuss the contents of and the learning outcomes of today's webinar. First of all, we will be discussing why we have to analyze transformer oil, what is the importance of analysis of transformer oil, and what importance or role it plays in condition monitoring of transformer. Then we will be discussing the types of oil analysis. We will be discussing oil quality analysis and dissolved gas analysis. Then we will be discussing the basics involved in dissolved gas analysis. That is, we will discuss from taking a sample from a transformer. We will briefly discuss what happens in laboratory, and then we will be discussing the results and their interpretations in detail. In the second part of the oil analysis, we will be discussing the basics of oil quality analysis, its results and their interpretation. And last but not the least, very important, we will be discussing the possible actions post oil quality analysis. And I will try to keep most of the discussion in English language, as we have participants from around the globe. So for better communication. So moving on to our next slide, transformer condition monitoring via oil analysis. Just like you have been to doctors and you have been to laboratories, and you all know that blood test is very important diagnostic tool which doctors and health practitioners use for analysis of health of a human being. Just like blood is a very good tool that is being used by health practitioners for analysis of human beings, so is the transformer oil. The health of a transformer oil is reflective of the health of the transformer itself. And there are two parts to it. I have already discussed. One is the gas analysis part, and second is the oil quality analysis part. I must specify here that today will be focused on mineral oil. No, we won't be discussing other types of oils that are being used in transformers. And secondly, I have made several references in my presentation to IEC standards, the applicable standards, which is 60422 and 60599, the IC standard for DG and oil quality analysis, and some references have been made to IEEE standard C57 104. So moving on to dissolved gas analysis. The most important part to dissolved gas analysis is that we first of all understand that why gases are generated in transformer. So, and how gases are generated in transformer and what gases are generated in transformer before we go on into the specifics of dissolved gas analysis and the results interpretation of dissolved gas analysis. So the first part, how gases are generated in transformer. You can see in the picture, and you can see my pointer, that this is a typical oil molecule, and it's basically a hydrocarbon chain. It consists of carbon atoms and hydrogen atoms, and when it gets energy from the environment, then it breaks down. First, the carbon-hydrogen bonds break down, and when it gets more energy from the environment, carbon-carbon bonds break down. And they break down into different gases like methane, ethane, ethylene, acetylene, etc. So the energy the oil molecules are getting, that basically breaks down the oil molecules. So the source of energy we will be discussing in the next slide. Similarly, for a cellulose chain, like a paper insulation chain, the paper insulation also breaks down when it gets energy from the environment. This is a typical cellulose chain shown here. And when it gets energy from the environment, it breaks down into carbon oxides. Carbon oxides, that is carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, and some other byproducts like water, methanol, furans, etc. We will be discussing these gases and their impact in detail in the next slide. So this is how gases are generated in transformer. Why gases are generated in transformer? This is very important. There are three possible categories of regions of gas generation in transformer. The number one is the faults. If there are any faults in transformer, they will be a cause of and a source of energy, and that they will cause the oil and the paper insulation to break down into different gases, and they will form different products. So faults are a source of energy. The second source of energy is power load. If a transformer is being operated on a higher load than its nominal limits, then there will be increased temperature, and the increased temperature will be a source of energy to break down the oil molecules and the cellulose chains. Similarly, last but very important, mineral oil decomposition can be due to non-fault related electrochemical and chemical reactions. Yes, it's very important. Not all gases generated in transformer are due to faults or overload. Gases can generate in transformer due to non-fault related chemical reactions of mineral oil with other materials in the transformer, like oil can interact with oxygen, with water, with other contaminants present in the oil, or with insulation material, etc. So the interaction of the oil with other materials reacts in generation of gases, and they are not, every gas is not generated due to a fault. This is very important, and we must keep this in mind. And furthermore, by analyzing these gases, condition of a transformer, health of a transformer can be established, can be assessed. And how we are going to assess it, we will be discussing later. What are the types of gases that are generated in transformer and that are being used for fault analysis? The type of gases are hydrogen, methane, ethane, acetylene, ethylene, carbon oxides, the carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide. So now we have covered three parts. Why gases are generated in transformer, what gases are generated in transformer, and how gases are generated in transformer. After covering these three areas, we will come to the steps of involved in carrying out a dissolved gas analysis of a transformer. 4 steps are mentioned here. The first one is sample extraction. You extract the oil sample from a transformer and you send it to laboratory for analysis. That is the second step. The third step is laboratory analysis. And the fourth step is results interpretation via different tools and analysis techniques. Typically, you will believe that steps 1 and 2 are relatively easy. No science in this. And step 4 is the main part. So that is what we all should focus on. But steps 1 and 2 are equally important, and I must tell you here that by analysis conducted by different organization, and you can see in different standards as well, and it's a personal experience as well, that errors in sampling and transportation will cause you loss of time and will cause you to carry out the sample again and carry out the analysis again. It will cause you money and time. So these two steps are not less important. They are equally important. Yes, they might be easier to do, but they are equally important. And it's very critical that we follow relevant procedures and guidelines and best practices in conducting all the 4 steps of a dissolved gas analysis. I will be discussing step 1 and step 2 briefly. I will be discussing laboratory analysis just here. Laboratory analysis, gas chromatography is used for laboratory analysis in most of the facilities, and ASTM 3612 and other applicable standards are followed in this analysis. Gas chromatograph is used to basically extract the gases from the transformer oil and establish which gases are present in the oil and in which quantity they are present in the transformer oil. This is what is the output of the gas chromatograph. It has different accuracy limits, and there are different considerations in carrying out gas chromatography, but I wouldn't be discussing in detail this subject at this moment, and probably we will be discussing it in a later webinar on the same subject. So moving on to the first part, the sample extraction, and the second part, the sample transportation. First of all, care must be taken to prevent sample contamination. Whatever you are taking the sample in, whether it's a bottle or it's a syringe, it should be cleaned before taking the sample. It must be flushed before taking the sample with the mineral oil. Secondly, equipment being used to take the sample other than the syringe and bottle must be flushed many times and must be clean and free from any contamination. The preferred method is gas-tight glass syringe to prevent ingress of air and loss of gases from the sample. One more important point to consider is that laboratory is not part and parcel of each facility, and in different facilities, when you take the transformer sample, you have to transport it to a laboratory within the same city or maybe across the cities for laboratory analysis. So it's very important that you take necessary precautions and steps to make sure that sample is properly transported to the laboratory and the contents of the sample are not lost or contaminated during this step. Furthermore, generally it's best practice followed by many industries that they generally take 2 samples of the transformer oil and they take this sample and send it to laboratory for analysis. It serves as a contingency plan and a recheck sample. If the results of first sample are abnormal, you can take the second sample which has been sent to the laboratory and you can check it again. So one important point in this is that errors during sampling and handling can lead to abnormal results. So it must be ensured that staff taking the sample is properly trained. He or she who is taking the sample knows the SOPs, knows the procedures, has done it many times before, and samples are correctly labeled and any contamination is avoided. One more thing is that once you are taking the sample, you make sure that it's being taken at the when the transformer is in operation. You take the sample at operating temperature of the transformer. So before looking at the results and trying to interpret them, it's important that you have a look at the prereqs for carrying out the DGA interpretation. There are different methods and standards that provide guideline and limits for interpreting the DGA results that we will discuss a little later. But the prereqs for DGA interpretation, first of all, you must take into consideration the transformer age, the operating temperature of the transformer, the breathing type of the transformer, whether it's a nitrogen blackened transformer, conservator type transformer, conservator with a membrane or a bladder. You must take into consideration these factors because they are very important in establishing the gas limits and gas concentrations and DG analysis. Secondly, you must be aware of the maintenance history and any specific events which have happened in the past. You must be aware of what maintenance work has been carried out on the transformer, whether the oil has been reclaimed or reconditioned, whether there has been a fault on the transformer or downstream of the transformer, has the buckles relay operate in the past, has there been a protection relay operation, and so on. Similarly, you should be aware of the sampling location where you always take the sample and from which sampling location you have taken the sample this time. Furthermore, you should be aware of the fact that whether your load tap changer, if you have one on your transformer, and the main tank are communicating or not communicating. What it means is that whether the gases from the load tap changer can move into the main tank oil and or not. Load dependence must also be taken into consideration, and performance of the cooling system is very important. You must be aware of that has there been any leaks on the radiators? Are the radiators washed properly? Is there any issue with the radiator fans, or have there been a set of radiators out of service in the past on the running transformer or not? And so on. Has there been a dust storm and it might have soaked your radiators? You must be aware of the performance of the radiators as well. So all these factors must be taken into consideration before interpreting the DGA result. I have mentioned 4 steps here, and it's not necessary that they must be carried out in the same order. I just want to share a perspective on how to interpret the DGA results. First of all, when you get the values from the laboratory that these are the concentration of gases, so you should, from the first look, the first step is to assess if the values, the rate of rise, the absolute values are okay or not. Are they showing an abnormal trend from the previous values? Are they showing abnormality as when you consider or compare it with different standards or not? So is there an indication of any abnormality or fault or not? First of all, you must establish this. If there is any abnormality, then you have to further investigate it. You have to use different tools and different diagnostic tests to identify the type of fault, the severity of fault, and if possible, the fault location. All these steps involve, there is no straightforward analysis or a procedure to follow to come to a conclusion. A number of factors need to be considered to suggest a way forward. It's not straightforward. DGA analysis and coming to a conclusion whether your transformer is faulty or not is not 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. It's not a straightforward analysis. You have to consider different factors. You have to consider the prereqs I have shared in the previous slide. You have to consider DGA. You have to consider information from other diagnostic electrical tests, oil quality tests, and then you can come to a, you have to take opinion of different experts, and then you can come to a closure on what's the way forward. These are the recommended gas limits in dissolved gas analysis of transformer as per IEC 60599. You can see there are two columns. I will not go into detail about the limits, but the concept is important. There are two columns. One is the absolute limit and second is the per year rate of rise. These limit of gases are just there to give you a heads up when your gases in your transformer oil exceed these values or reach near these values. Number one, the absolute gas limits, which are mentioned in this column. This is just there to initiate investigation if gases in your transformer oil reach near this value. The per year rate of rise values or rate of rise is more important, as if rate of rise is high, it means that there is a possibility of an active fault in your transformer. So it's very important that you not only see the absolute values, but you see the per year rate of rise as well to investigate your DGA results. Absolute gas limits, I will repeat again because some people believe that if your transformer has exceeded absolute gas limit, your transformer is done and there is a fault. It's not necessary. Absolute gas limits are just numbers. They are used to initiate investigation when these limits are exceeded. But other factors need to be considered as well. Gas generation and faults. I mentioned in my starting slide that methane, ethane, hydrogen, ethylene, acetylene, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide gases are generated and they represent some types of fault. So for different types of fault, different types of gases are generated in relatively more concentration. So if I talk about overheating of paper, if the paper insulation is getting overheated, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide are generated in more quantities relative to other gases. Then if there is overheating of oil, ethane, methane, ethylene, acetylene are generated in more quantities as the temperature is increased. Gases from shift from ethane and methane to methane and acetylene in higher concentrations. And for partial discharges, hydrogen and acetylene is produced in relatively larger quantities. You can see a graph here, and you can see that for partial discharge, at the start, hydrogen is generated in relatively higher concentration. First of all, let me tell you about the axis. The x-axis is tells you about the fault types. The y-axis tells you about the relative fault concentration. Fault types, they are short forms. I will tell you about a few of them. PD means partial discharge, S means stray gassing, T1, T2, T3 means thermal faults, D1, D2 means discharges of low energy and high energy. If you see for partial discharges, hydrogen gas will be generated in more concentration. For discharges of low and high energy, hydrogen and acetylene are produced in higher concentration. This is the relative gas concentration. You can see for acetylene will be around 50%, hydrogen will be more than 50% for D1 type of faults. Similarly, for thermal faults, you will see that as temperature is increased, first ethane and methane will be produced, then methane and ethylene will be produced, and as temperatures increase, acetylene is produced. So this is just a graphical representation of what I told you in the last slide. Stray gassing, which I explained to you in the earlier slides, that there are three causes of gas generation. One is fault, second is overload, third is stray gassing, that is non-fault related chemical reactions of mineral oil with the other materials present within the transformer. In stray gassing, different types of gases are produced. Methane is produced, hydrogen is produced, and so on other gases. So this is a general graphical representation of what gases are relatively produced in more concentration for which type of fault. Now you carried out the sampling. Step 1, you transported the sample to the laboratory. Step 2, in the laboratory analysis was carried out. We didn't go into detail. Let's suppose there is a black box, some analysis carried out, results come out of the laboratory. In the laboratory, the results which were shown showed concentrations of hydrogen, methane, ethane, and the gases we have discussed. And they showed the concentration in ppm, and you have previous results as well. Now, from the results you compared and from the IEC limitations given in the back slide, this slide I'm referring to, you compared the results with this slide, the recommended gas limits, and you came to a conclusion, or you came to a finding that results are not right. Results are in the higher on the higher side, and rate of rise is high, or absolute gas limits are high, and they are higher than the last DGA results. So, is there a fault or not? If there is a fault, then what type of fault is it? Now you have come to the fault identification step. If DGA results are normal, no need to further investigate it. But if DGA results are abnormal, abnormal means either the absolute gas limits are higher than the previous results, or the rate of rise is higher, then it means that there is something not right. So you have to investigate it further. For further investigation, different methods are used, and different methods are being used internationally. I wouldn't be discussing each and every of the method. I will be just discussing a few of those methods. One is dual triangle and pentagon. Then there are Donenberg ratios. Then there is IEC ratio. There is a key gas method available. And other than this, there are different ratios which are available and which are used in the light of different standards. For example, you have oxygen nitrogen ratio. Okay, so you have CO2 carbon dioxide carbon monoxide ratio. You have acetylene to hydrogen ratio. For oxygen to nitrogen ratio, for a transformer which is nitrogen blanketed, oxygen to nitrogen ratio is less than equal to 0.2. That is considered normal. If your oxygen nitrogen ratio has increased, it means that there is a possible leak in the transformer, and which is a source of this ratio getting disturbed. Similarly, for carbon dioxide to carbon monoxide ratio, if this ratio falls below 3, less than 3, and there is generation of other gases as well, other hydrocarbons as well, then in the light of IEC and IEEE standard, it means that there is a possible paper insulation fault. There is overheating of paper insulation. So different ratios exist which are used to analyze your results and point out towards potential faults that are being generated in your transformer. Types of fault, I briefly discussed this in the graphical representation of the gas generation and reason for gas generation. PD stands for partial discharge, D1 stands for discharge of low energy, D2 stands for discharge of high energy, DT is the combined electrical and thermal fault. For thermal fault less than 300 degrees Celsius, T1 symbol is used. For thermal fault between 300 and 700 degrees Celsius, T2 symbol is used. For thermal fault greater than 700 degrees Celsius, T3 symbol is used. I will briefly explain the dual triangle. This is dual triangle 1. It was originally initiated in, I think, 1974 by Mr. Dual. This triangle, which I am presenting here, consists of three gases: acetylene, methane, and ethylene. As you can see, they have concentrations marked here on the axis, and these are relative concentrations. And for example, you have three gases, and they amount to 300 ppm, 100 ppm for methane, 100 ppm for ethylene, and 100 ppm for acetylene. Although it's not going to happen, hypothetical, just for the sake of mathematical simplicity. You have three gases, 300 ppm, and each gas of 100 ppm. So relative concentration of each gas will be 33.33%. And for methane, it will be plotted here, somewhere like here. For ethylene, it will be plotted like here. For ethylene, it will be plotted somewhere like here. And when these three gases, three lines will intersect, this will tell you the type of fault from the dual triangle. For this 33%, I think it will lie somewhere around D2, and D2 is a discharge of high energy. So this is the type of fault. If the intersection of three lines fall in T3 region, then it's a thermal fault. If it falls in T2 region, then it's a thermal fault of between 300 and 700 degrees Celsius, and so on. So dual triangle 1 is used for fault and identification for mineral oil. And if you use dual triangle 1, and you further want to investigate and look further into the cause of your fault, you can use dual triangle 4 and 5, which are also available, and they must always be used after you have used dual triangle 1. If you use dual triangle 1 and the type of fault is thermal fault or partial discharge fault, then you can use triangle 4 and triangle 5. But if you use dual triangle 1 and the type of fault is D1 or T2, then no need to use dual triangle 4 or 5. But only for thermal faults or PD fault, for further investigation, you can use dual triangle 4 and 5 after using triangle 1. Similarly, later, a few years ago, Mr. Dual developed dual pentagon for analysis of 5 gases at a time. So he developed dual pentagon 1 and dual pentagon 2. So pentagon 1 we use at a start. After using pentagon 1, if you the type of fault is thermal fault, that is T1, T2 or T3, then you can use dual pentagon 2 for further analysis. But if the type of fault is dielectric discharge of energies, then you don't have to use the dual pentagon 2. So this is a brief discussion on dual triangles and dual pentagons. There are a few questions that I want to ask you guys so that I can understand if we are going in the right direction and we are on the same page or not. So I am launching a polling. Please respond to this question. 75% of the people have responded. I am waiting for a few more answers before I can end this polling. Okay, I will end the polling. More than 80% have responded. Uh, as you can see the results, 71%, 70 plus percent of people have voted that it's not necessary to have a fault in transformer for gas generation. And around 29% have voted yes, it's necessary to have a fault in transformer for gas generation. 71% of the people who have voted that it's not necessary to have a fault in transformer for gas generation are right. As I mentioned in my earlier slides, there is a phenomena known as spray gassing, and spray gassing is generation of gases due to oil interaction with other material within the transformer, electrochemical and chemical reactions within the transformer, and which are not fault related. So it's not necessary that gases are generated and there is always a fault behind it. It's not necessary. There can be gas generation and there wouldn't be any fault behind being the reason behind the gas generation. So those of you who have replied yes, no, it's not the case. Gases can be generated due to no fault in the transformer. I hope I am clear, and I will ask another question because I have covered this in my previous slides before we move on. Okay, I am ending the polling and I will share results. 50%, more than 50% of the people have voted option 1 and 2, that is hydrogen and acetylene as the gases which will be generated in more concentration on discharges of high energy. Yes, this is right. Hydrogen will be generated, acetylene will be generated in more quantities with respect to other gases when there is a high energy discharge. So I think that's done. We are done with polling for till now, and we will move on. I will move on to the next slide. Regarding ratios, which I have told you about dual triangle, dual pentagon, different. There are considerations which must be kept in mind before drawing conclusions. First of all the ratios and different methods have their limitations. There have been cases reported where these methods aren't able to identify the exact fault type because these methods aren't 100% accurate. They have their accuracies. I think dual has around 85 to 90% accuracy level, and so on. Other ratios are lower as well. Some ratios have around 50, 40, 60% accuracy as well for fault identification. So these ratios, the point is these ratios are not 100% accurate. And when you are identifying the fault type from these ratios, just keep that in mind. Also, these ratios aren't originally designed to identify multiple faults. So if there are multiple faults, let's say, so in case further evaluation is required, you might have to do one or two more steps to evaluate the reason for fault, and you can to further identify the fault location, you have to carry out multiple analysis. These methods won't give you a straightforward answer for multiple faults. And the fact that a possible fault type is identified in your Roger ratio, for example, is not in itself a confirmation of the presence of the fault. Uh, you must keep that in mind. What it means is that these ratios have limitations. DGA, and if you are getting a fault from these ratios, you have to keep into consideration the prereqs I have shared earlier, and you have to keep into consideration the results of other diagnostic techniques like electrical test and oil quality test and so on before you draw to a conclusion that there is a fault, active fault in the transformer. Possible actions in case of suspected DGA. First of all, you confirm data and sample quality. You make sure that the sample you expected was from the right transformer, was taken with the right SOPs, and the laboratory has carried out analysis on the right sample provided. You take another sample and send it again to the laboratory for the confirmation. In case of the values are actually high, you increase your sample frequency. You perform other diagnostic tests like electrical test, oil quality test, pranic compound test, and so on. You share the results with your OEM, transformer OEM, your third party expert you have, and take his opinion on what is the way forward. You can go for decreased loading of the transformer. You can go for shutdown of the transformer and internal inspection. All depends on the results you have and the evidence the diagnostic tests are pointing to. So these are the possible actions in case of suspected DGA. I will share a final poll on this topic, dissolved gas analysis, uh, before we move on. more than 80% of the people have voted, and yes, you will not analyze every DGA result from these ratios. Uh, 70% of the people have answered correctly. Only those DGA results, those results which are exceeding the recommended limits or whose rate of rise is abnormal, very high, only those results you will go for further analysis from ratios and so on. Not every results you will analyze from ratios I have described earlier. So 70% of the people are right. And okay. So I move on to oil quality analysis. We covered the dissolved gas analysis part, and now I will be covering briefly the oil quality analysis part. Uh, the main content of the discussion will be focused from IEC 60422, and we will be discussing only oil quality tests which are generic in nature, which are need to be performed every time after a periodic interval, and any specific investigative test, special test I have not covered. I am not covering in today's presentation. So I will be discussing the appearance, color, water content, acidity, breakdown voltage, and dielectric dissipation factor or resistivity of the mineral oil of transformer. So oil color, you can see a picture here, and oil color is observed by the laboratory and a numerical code is assigned as per ISO standards. The lighter the oil, the lighter the code assigned and vice versa. A darker oil points towards more degradation, contamination, and the appearance of oil is very important. It must be free from sediments, particles, deposition, and so on. It must be clear of sediments and deposits, and it must be lighter in color. The water content, all of us know is very important for to analyze and very harmful for the oil, the insulation, and the life of a transformer. The greater the water content, the more harmful it will be, and it will accelerate the aging of the oil and the transformer. There are different sources of increase in water in transformer oil. It can be due to ingress from atmosphere. It can be due to degradation of insulation. We discussed earlier in our how gases are generated slide that when cellulose insulation breakdowns, it generates water as well. Furthermore, during manufacturing, a a sustainable amount of water is absorbed in transformer windings, 0.5 to 1% in some cases by weight of paper insulation. So that water is also available present in the transformer insulation, paper insulation, and when the transformer heats up and a thermal equilibrium is achieved, the transformer, the water that is present in the paper insulation diffuses in the oil. So during manufacturing, water that is retained in transformer paper insulation is also a source of water content in transformer oil. So it's important to keep a check on it, and if it starts to increase, you should identify the root cause and source of this water increase, because it's very damaging for the overall electrical asset. Then acidity. Acidity of a transformer oil is an indication that there are significant acidic oxidation products due to different reasons, and it damages your these products damages your insulation and metallic parts of the transformer. It must be below a certain number, and if it has increased above a certain number, it's necessary to reclaim or recondition or replace the transformer oil. There are other solutions to controlling asset number as well, and one of the solution is adding inhibitors in transformer oil. Generally, they are added 0.3% by mass, and there are different types of inhibitors available. Like there is DPPC and BHT, phenols, and so on. So I won't be going into details on the inhibitor side, but adding inhibitors in transformer oil is a solution to control the acid number. You have to periodically monitor it, the inhibitors as well. And once they go below a certain percentage, a certain ppm, you have to add the inhibitors again in the transformer. So monitoring of acid number, acidity is important, because if it goes beyond a certain number, it will impact your insulation, it will impact your metallic parts. So you have to keep a check on it. And if it's a solution to it is, you can reclaim your oil, you can replace your oil, or you can add inhibitors in the transformer oil to control it. In the graph, you can see interfacial tension is plotted in the graph, but I won't be discussing this parameter today. I will be discussing the acidity, and you can see that acid number is plotted against years of service of transformer. And in the later years of transformer service life, this number, you can see, starts to increase rapidly. So it's very important to keep a check on acid number and ensure that it remains within the recommended limits. Moving on to resistivity or dielectric dissipation factor, both factors are sensitive to presence of contaminants in oil, and so are a good representation of the quality of the transformer oil. Either one of the tests can be conducted to assess the condition of the oil. You can conduct only resistivity or dielectric dissipation factor. Since both of the tests are dependent on moisture in the oil and temperature of the oil, so if you are conducting dielectric dissipation factor, you conduct it at two temperatures. One at low temperature, you conduct this test at low temperature, and one at high temperature. So if you are getting good results at both temperature, then the oil is in good condition, acceptable condition. But if the result at lower temperature is not good, not acceptable, but at higher temperature is acceptable, then the oil condition is poor. But if the dielectric dissipation factor is very high at both the high temperature and low temperature, then the result is very poor, and you need to take immediate action and address the root cause of the problem. Breakdown voltage. The breakdown voltage of oil, this test is normally conducted in-house by almost all of the facilities. And you apply a voltage to the transformer oil sample, and you check the voltage at which the oil breakdowns. And the higher the breakdown voltage, the better the oil condition is, and the less the contaminants in oil are. But you have to make sure that oil sample on which you are conducting the breakdown voltage test is taken at operating temperature of the transformer. And you have to, I must point out here that there are different methods as per different standards on conducting the breakdown voltage test. Gaps between the electrodes in different standards is different. The shape of the electrodes is different. But whatever standard you follow, the important thing is that you keep doing this test on a regular basis. You keep recording its value, and you ensure that the sample on which you are conducting the test is representative of the transformer. On this slide, there are recommended values in light of IEC 60422 standard of the oil quality parameters. Appearance, it should be clear and free from sediment and suspended particles. Color, maximum color must be of 2. Breakdown voltage for here there are 3 columns. This shows voltage for transformers whose highest voltage is less than 72.5. This shows transformers whose highest voltage is between 72.5 to 170 kV, and this is for transformers with voltage greater than 170 kV. So breakdown voltage is must be greater than 55 kV. Water content should be less than 20 milligram per kg. Acidity or acid number must be less than 0.03, and dielectric dissipation factor at 90 degrees Celsius must be less than equal to 0.015. So these are the parameters I have told you about 72.5 kV transformers. For higher voltages, there are different limits, and you can see them when required. To summarize, but before summary, I want to ask one or two questions regarding the previous portion, so that I can understand if some clarity on any question is required or not. Here is a question regarding oil quality analysis. Please answer. I will end polling here. Around 80% of the people have responded, and 63% of the people say that high acid number transformer oil will have high water solubility. Yes, it's correct. So having a high acid number will have dual effect. It will not only damage your metallic parts and your insulation, but it will have higher tendency for water solubility as well. So the answer is of 63% of the people is right. Okay, now back to summary. We discussed oil analysis methods. There are two parts to oil analysis. One is dissolved gas analysis. The second is oil quality analysis. There are different standards and techniques available for oil quality analysis and dissolved gas analysis. And there are numerous cases where existing methods like Roger, IEC ratios, etc., aren't able to identify the exact fault. So that must be kept in mind. Dissolved gas and oil quality analysis reveal insight into transformer health and underlying issues. But having said this, these tests must be are complementary. If you are having abnormal values in dissolved gas analysis, you must be supporting it by conducting oil quality analysis or some electrical tests or some other diagnostic tests to complement your analysis and to try to identify the exact fault location and exact fault type if it is present. So DG and oil quality analysis are very powerful techniques, but once they are supported by other tests, they become uh, they become further strong. Last but not the least, establishing a proper transformer dissolved gas and oil analysis program is important and vital. Same goes for a database, proper database establishment. You must have record of all the previous dissolved gas analysis and oil quality analysis results in your database. You must be aware of all the maintenance that has been carried out on the transformer. You must have a log of all the faults that have occurred on the transformer or downstream of the transformer. So you must have all this database available with you so that in case of abnormal results or when required, you can use this database for further analysis. So establishing a proper uh, oil and dissolved gas analysis program, a proper maintenance program, and database is crucial for health management of transformer. That's the summary for today's discussion. What's next? As I discussed during the webinar, sorry, as I discussed during the webinar, that sorry, I will have a glass of water. Sorry. As I've discussed during the webinar, that we haven't discussed some topics in detail. We have left the laboratory analysis part. We have left some special investigative tests in oil quality analysis. We haven't discussed a case study on dissolved gas analysis. So we haven't discussed these areas because it was the first webinar on the topic, and I wanted to discuss and start from the basics. So there will be a next webinar on the same topic. It will cover these topics in detail. It will cover how to use dual ratios. It will cover case studies regarding DG of transformer. It will cover online dissolved gas analyzers available in the market and much more. So keep connected and register for the next webinar on IET website. We will be sharing the details very soon. So thank you very much for your time and for connecting. I will now request the host to please take over, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really an informative session. Now we would be moving on to the question answer session. But before that, I would really thank all of you. Like there were around 80 to 75 participants. And I hope you all had a good informative session. We would be also having our next session soon. And we would be sharing the details in the website. And IIT Karachi Network is having another webinar tomorrow. That's on project management. It is available on the website. And you also can register for the project management webinar and many more to come. I will be moving on to the question answer session. If Mr. Naveed Rabbani will unmute his mic, I would like to request Mr. Naveed to answer the question. We have so many questions, but as we have short of time, like we had to end the session at 3 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time, but this was an informative session and it was a detailed discussion, so it just move a bit more. We would be having a 15 minutes Q&A session, and many people are also asking that if we would be sharing the slide. I would ask Mr. Naveed Rabbani, like if he would like to share the slide. It is his content, so I would ask him if he would like to answer this question. Hello?
Yes, we'll be sharing slides, no issue.
Okay, that's nice. Like that the question was asked by many of them. And about the certificate, we would be sharing the certificate. We would be emailing you that, and it would be 1 hour CPD hour would be awarded. And we would can we move on to the questions if you say, sir?
Yes, we can move on.
That's nice. Thank you. Like we got the question from the start of the presentation, and then I just said, okay, we would be answering the question soon.
I want to, I see one question which is transformer oil flammable? I cannot see the name, but I will answer it straight away. Yes, the oil we are talking about, the mineral oil, is at a flash point of around 140, 150 degrees Celsius. And that's why when at the start I discussed that we will be focusing on mineral oil only. But if you can study and if you can see transformers that are being used having silicon oil and biodegradable oils, and the main advantage these oil offers are having a higher flash point of 300 degrees Celsius or more. So the mineral oil, yes, it has a flash point of 140, 150 degrees Celsius, and it can catch fire.
Mohammed Shoaib has asked, like, what standards say about the particular material of the storage bottle? The storage bottle. Is there any standard of the storage bottle for storing oil? These questions are available in the chat section.
Can you please repeat the question?
It says what does the standard say about the particular material of the storage bottle?
Generally, glass bottles are used, and the standard specifically prefers that you take sample in a glass syringe, which is airtight. I mentioned in the slides as well. Thank you.
Question: what does the standard? It's the same question. What is meant by OLTC? OLTC.
Oh, sorry, on-load tap changer. Now these days in standards, it's just written load tap changer, load tap changer. So it's on-load tap changer.
There's a question by Yasser Javed. Is there any standard that provides guidelines for sampling procedure?
Yes, there are standards available. IEC and IEEE standards are available that provide guidelines on sampling, oil sampling.
And how will we know that there has been some error in sampling? Does the testing lab verify that?
By analyzing the results, for example, you are taking a sample and the previous DGA result hydrogen value was, let's suppose, 20 ppm in your transformer. That was sample was taken 6 months ago. Generally, sampling is carried out from a quarterly to a yearly interval. So let's suppose the last sample you carried out on your transformer was 6 months ago, and now you again took a sample, send it to laboratory. Laboratory carried out the analysis and shared the result with you. The results showed hydrogen of only 2 ppm. So this abnormality in the hydrogen concentration with all the other gases at the same level, but hydrogen in lesser concentration and oxygen in higher concentration or nitrogen in higher concentration, you can assess that there has been something wrong during the sampling process. Either the bottle was not gas tight, so hydrogen escaped very quickly, and other gases from the atmosphere contaminated the sample. So you have to analyze the results, and if their abnormality is found, you have to take sample again, and then you can confirm if there has been any contamination in the oil sample.
I think you answered this question, like how frequently is dissolved gas analysis performed in a year? Not frequently.
I think I answered this, but I still repeat again that it depends on the transformer, the criticality of the transformer. If transformer results are okay, I am not telling you about abnormal transformer with some abnormal DCA results or other issues. But if the transformer is healthy and has normal results, then different recommendations exist. For a critical transformer, they exist. The standards tell about doing it on a quarterly basis. and 2 yearly basis for other transformers. So it depends on the criticality of the transformer on your plant.
What's the average age to use a transformer? Like the age of the transformer.
Transformers age is more than 30 years. There are transformers, there are results with transformers operating in these days with age of more than 50 years. So 30 years uh, is a very norm. Transformers are aged 30 years and they work properly if they are maintained properly.
Nice. Do we have any software in order to identify faults or perform DGA? Like, is there any software?
For fault identification, yes, there are softwares. Some are custom made, some are offered by different companies. You put in the values and they tell you about the fault, type of fault, and so on. So there are softwares available in the market, but
Right.
I have seen people doing it with Excel sheet and it works fine.
Okay.
Using Excel sheet for plotting and doing everything, and it works fine. Not necessary to use a software, but it's your choice.
The per air rise reading as shown in the slide. The per air rise, the slide you shown that the per air rise. I cannot understand this question by Danish Aslam. He said that the per air rise reading as shown in the slide are covered in some standards.
Yes, they are covered in IEC 60599 standard. Yes.
Okay. Is the detection of low level of polychlorinated biphenyls in transformer oils an issue outside Europe? Is the detection of low levels of polychlorinated biphenyls in transformer oils an issue?
It's a protocol, it's an environmental question, environmental aspect to this, that use of PCB in oils has been banned, and it depends on the company's procedure and the location and the region procedures. Yes, some countries outside Europe, many countries in fact outside Europe, avoid using oils with higher PCB content due to environmental impact.
Nice. Why does the breakdown voltage test result increase when we heat oil? Which IEC standard is followed?
For
When we heat,
breakdown voltage, I didn't get the exact question.
I can repeat that. Why does the breakdown voltage test results increase when we heat oil? Centrifuging. Which IEC standard is followed for dielectric strength test?
IEC 60422 is followed for this test, and I don't know who is the person who has asked this, so that I can get what he's trying to communicate.
Mohammad Hassan.
Okay, let's get back to this. I didn't get what he's trying to say.
We will answer questions through the email if we are not able to answer some questions over here. Zafar Faridi is asking, can you please share a real-world dissolved gas analysis / quality, etc. test to reach a transformer fault?
Yes, I have values available with me, but because they are not available for public use, but I can share examples in my next webinar regarding case studies and real world examples. If this is what he meant.
We would be sharing this in our next webinar, inshallah. Kindly mention the standards of oil sampling procedure.
I think, Samira, I have answered this in the start. So
Right. Centrifuging of transformer increases the dielectric strength. Why is that so?
sorry.
Centrifuging a transformer increases the dielectric strength. Why is that so?
This we will be covering in our next topic, and so I think we should park it for there.
I would be now sharing the question from the Q&A tab and the chat questions. Any standard age after that it cannot be used. I think it's some like it belongs to some slide. Can you please open the Q&A part of the Soalia Arshad has asked how to check water ingression due to paper insulation.
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm not sure the context of this question, but if the question is like how you are going to assess what is the contribution of paper insulation to moisture in transformer oil, there are different tests. And when you carry out the test of moisture analysis in transformer oil, and when the transformer is new, you carry out a baseline, you establish a benchmark, and then you proceed onwards. So the difference in moisture will let you assess, and the initial reading will let you assess the contribution of uh, paper insulation to moisture in transformer oil. But what is important during this analysis that you carry it out when transformer has achieved a certain stable load, and it has achieved a thermal equilibrium. So this is very important to infer from transformer oil the moisture which is present or which was inherent in paper insulation. I hope I am clear, because if I am not, or the question was something else, so we can always get back to you on that.
The question, we would be ending by 3:30. Like we have 5 more minutes and then we would be ending. Okay. I think another question by Soalila. How to identify which analysis method or tool should be used? Any thumb rule?
Okay, it's a very good question actually, because there are different methods that exist, and you have to choose between the methods, and but important is that you must keep into consideration the accuracy of these methods. The fault identification, different methods exist, and they have different accuracy levels. As I mentioned earlier, that in my presentation, that a dual ratio has an accuracy between 85 to 90%, and IEC ratios have accuracy around 50% or so. So to fault identification. So dual triangles are generally most commonly used, but other methods have been recommended by researchers, which are a combination of different methods. So it all depends on you, but use the method which is more accurate. And once you are not sure about the results, you can compare the results. You can analyze from dual, and then you can analyze from IEC ratio, and then you can analyze from any other ratio, key gas method, and then you can compare the results. So it will help you to establish what's the cause of the gas leak. So the accuracy is one of the factors you look into.
Is it possible to use this method for oil testing and control used in transformer bushing test equipment? Like for transformer bushing, we can use this method.
I cannot hear you. Sorry.
Is it possible to use this method for oil testing and control used in transformer bushing test equipment?
We will have to see. I don't have, I think you cannot.
What is the frequency of DG of transformer oil? Frequency of dissolved gas analysis of transformer oil.
I mentioned earlier that you do it on a, it depends on the condition of the transformer. If the transformer is okay health-wise, then and it depends on the rating of the transformer, the criticality of a transformer. You do it somewhere around on a 6 monthly to yearly basis. But when the transformer is new, so it's very important to establish a baseline, especially stray gases generation is more in new transformers. So for new transformers, you carry out DGA more frequently, and then later once you have a baseline established, so you can do it on a 6 monthly to a yearly basis. It depends on the criticality of the transformer and the condition of the transformer. But what I am telling you is for a healthy transformer.
Like it's the last question for now. We have so many questions in the Q&A tab, but we would be answering them through the email, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. The last question for today. Rumi Tariq. How can we test breakdown voltage of oil? Either we apply AC or DC voltage.
I mentioned it in my slide. So when you will be reading the slides, you will get the answer.
Okay, we would be sharing the slides and we would also be sharing a feedback form. Kindly fill that form and share that with us and send us that to us. And I hope it was a good session for everyone. Like it was really informative for me. I would really thank Sir Naveed for making this much effort for IIT Karachi and for everyone here who joined the session. I hope you all will be joining in our next session. We would be sharing the details of the next webinar soon. I really want to thank everyone for joining us and especially Sir Naveed. Thank you so much. And that's all from our side, IIT Karachi Network.